My phone lit up at 2:13 a.m., yanking me from the edge of sleep. I rubbed my eyes and squinted at the screen. It was Rico, my so-called manager. "You're in. White party. Tomorrow night. You made it." I stared at the message, my stomach doing flips. The White Party, the stuff of legend. Hosted by Diddy himself, it was more than a party. It was a rite of passage. Careers were made there. Lives changed overnight. But it wasn't just about showing up. It was about proving you belonged. And proving yourself came with a price. I sat up, my hands clammy. Part of me wanted to ignore the text, but another part, the hungry part, knew this was the opportunity I couldn't miss. I glanced at the clock again, 2:15 a.m. Sleep wasn't happening tonight. A week ago, I was just another SoundCloud rapper trying to make it big. Then my song went viral. TikTok had eaten it up. People were making dance trends, memes, even challenges with the hook. The chorus was sticky, the kind of thing that burrowed into your brain and stayed there. But one viral hit didn't mean anything in the long run. Everyone was already asking, what's next? The pressure was crushing. Rico made sure I felt it every time he looked at me with that sly grin of his, like he knew I'd either rise or crumble under it. The next morning, Rico called me into his office. It wasn't much, just a room in the back of a recording studio he'd borrowed from a friend. He leaned back in his chair, a cheap cigar dangling from his fingers. "Big night tomorrow," he said, blowing smoke toward the ceiling. "Don't embarrass me." I nodded, trying to look confident, but inside I was anything but. The stories about the White Party buzzed in my mind. Whispers of strange rituals, shady deals, and sacrifices. Things no one would admit to in the daylight. Rico waved his cigar at me. "You think this is just a party? Nah, man. This is the big leagues. They're watching. You gotta deliver." I swallowed hard. "What exactly am I delivering?" He smirked. "Yourself." The party was at a mansion in the Hamptons. I'd never seen anything like it. White marble stairs spiraled up to a balcony that seemed to touch the sky. Chandeliers sparkled like frozen stars. Even the air smelled expensive, a mix of fresh-cut roses and something I couldn't place, something metallic. Inside, everything was white. White curtains billowed from the ceiling. White roses filled vases as tall as me. Even the champagne flutes were frosted white, catching the light and throwing it back like prisms. Rico handed me a suit before we left the city. "Custom tailored," he said, patting the lapels like he was proud of himself. It cost more than I'd made in my entire life, but when I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. As we entered the party, Rico shoved a girl toward me. She was stunning, sharp cheekbones, flawless skin, and eyes that seemed like they could cut through steel. But there was something off about her, something hollow. "She's your ticket," Rico whispered, leaning close. His breath smelled like whiskey. "Prove you belong." I frowned. What does that mean? He didn't answer. Instead, he slipped a small vial into my hand. The glass was cool against my skin, the liquid inside swirling like it was alive. "When the time comes, you'll know," he said, his tone low. "Don't think, just act." My fingers tightened around the vial as we moved through the crowd. The room was buzzing with energy. Celebrities I'd only seen on screens were everywhere, laughing, drinking, watching. At the center of it all was Diddy, sitting on what looked like a throne. He was surrounded by an entourage, his expression unreadable. Rico nudged me forward, the girl clinging to my arm like we were old flames. "You brought the new kid," someone said. Another voice chuckled. "Let's see if he's got what it takes." The bass from the music thumped in my chest. Someone handed me a glass of champagne, and I downed it without thinking. My fingers still gripped the vial in my pocket. It felt like a weight, pulling me deeper into something I didn't understand. The girl turned to me, her voice barely a whisper. "You don't have to do this." Her words sent a chill down my spine. But before I could respond, Rico's voice cut through the noise. "Do it." Time seemed to slow. The room blurred around me, the faces of the crowd sharpening into piercing stares. My heart raced as I pulled the vial from my pocket. My hands trembled, the glass catching the light and sparkling like a star. The girl's lips quivered. "Please," she mouthed. Rico's voice echoed in my mind. "You gotta prove you belong." I froze. The moment stretched on long enough for someone to laugh, a sharp, cruel sound that cut through the tension like a knife. My chest tightened, and I realized this wasn't just a test. This was a moment that would define me. The girl brushed her hand against mine. She wasn't pleading anymore. She was resigned, and that's what broke me. In one motion, I dropped the vial. It hit the marble floor and shattered, the liquid spreading in a crimson pool. The laughter stopped. Gasps rippled through the crowd, and all eyes turned to Diddy. He stood slowly, his movements deliberate. My throat tightened as he stepped toward me, his expression unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm. "You've got guts, kid." He clapped me on the shoulder, his grip firm. "Let's see what you can do with them." The party roared back to life around me, but I was no longer part of it. I slipped out the back, the girl following close behind. Neither of us spoke as we stepped into the cool night air. It hit me like a slap, sharp and sobering. For the first time that night, I felt free. The next morning, my song hit 1 million streams. Rico didn't call, and I didn't call him either. I knew better. The white party wasn't about proving yourself to the industry. It was about proving yourself to yourself. And that's exactly what I'd done. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear the sound of that vial shattering against the marble. And I wonder, did I make the right choice? Or did I just delay the inevitable? When Jamie Foxx received the invitation to Diddy's white party, it was business as usual. For a star of his caliber, attending events like this was just another night of glitz, glamour, and networking. The legendary soiree in the Hamptons was more than just a party. It was a symbol of status, a place where the most powerful people in entertainment rubbed elbows and whispered secrets no one else was supposed to hear. Jamie didn't expect this party to be any different from the others he'd attended over the years. But that night would prove unforgettable for all the wrong reasons. The evening was in full swing when Jamie arrived, dressed to perfection in a tailored white suit that glimmered under the estate's lights. The mansion was alive with music and laughter, the air thick with champagne and cigar smoke. Everyone who was anyone was there, effortlessly beautiful and wrapped in an aura of untouchable confidence. Jamie floated through the crowd with ease, cracking jokes, flashing his signature smile, and drawing laughter wherever he went. But as the hours wore on, he found himself wanting a break from the noise. He wandered through the estate, the muffled bass of the music fading as he ventured into a quieter wing of the mansion. The hallway was eerily silent, the air colder than it should have been. Jamie glanced over his shoulder, feeling a strange sensation, as though he were being watched. That's when he noticed a door slightly ajar at the end of the hallway. From inside, he could hear faint murmurs, low voices, and an unsettling rhythmic sound. Against his better judgment, Jamie approached, his footsteps silent on the plush carpet. Peering through the crack in the door, Jamie's breath caught in his throat. Inside, Diddy sat at the center of a circle, surrounded by a group of men, powerful figures Jamie recognized instantly. These were titans of the music industry, men whose influence shaped the careers of countless artists. But what they were doing defied reason. The men were engaged in something grotesque, their actions so depraved that Jamie's mind struggled to process what he was seeing. Diddy's expression was calm, almost serene, as though this horrific spectacle was the most natural thing in the world. Jamie stepped back, his stomach twisting in revulsion. He hadn't made a sound, but somehow Diddy's head turned sharply toward the door, his eyes locking onto Jamie's. "Fox!" Diddy called, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. Panic set in. Jamie bolted, his heart pounding as he raced back down the hallway, his footsteps echoing in the emptiness. The mansion seemed like a maze, the corridors twisting and turning as he tried to find his way back to the party. "Jamie!" Diddy's voice rang out, closer now, heavy with a mix of anger and authority. "Where are you going?" Jamie didn't stop. He pushed through a side door and out onto the estate's sprawling lawn, the cool night air hitting his face like a slap. He kept running, desperate to put as much distance between himself and that room as possible. But Diddy caught up to him. "Jamie, stop!" Diddy's voice was calm now, almost soothing, as though trying to placate a scared animal. Jamie turned, breathing hard. Diddy approached slowly, his white suit immaculate, his face unreadable. "You didn't see anything," Diddy said, his tone soft but firm. "Understand?" Jamie didn't respond. His mind was racing, torn between fear and disbelief. Diddy stepped closer. Look, Jamie, you're a smart guy. You know how this world works. There are things we do to maintain the life we have, things no one talks about. Jamie's mouth went dry. He wanted to scream, to demand answers, but the words wouldn't come. Diddy smiled faintly, his expression chillingly calm. You stay quiet, and this all stays behind you. You talk, and, well, let's just say people don't like loose ends. Jamie nodded numbly, his instincts telling him that arguing would only make things worse. Diddy clapped him on the shoulder, his grip unnervingly firm. That's my guy, Diddy said, his voice light again as though they were back at the party. Now, let's get you another drink. Jamie didn't stay. He left the party without saying goodbye. The images from that room burned into his mind. For years, Jamie kept the memory locked away. He told himself it was a bad dream, a figment of his imagination fueled by too much champagne. But deep down, he knew the truth. Jamie decided to return to stand-up comedy. It was supposed to be a fresh start, a chance to reconnect with the joy of making people laugh. While brainstorming material, the memory of the white party resurfaced. He crafted a joke about Hollywood's darkest corners, framing it as a wild exaggeration. The crowd loved it. The joke landed perfectly, and Jamie felt a rush of pride. But that night, as he drove home, a car followed him. 2 weeks later, Jamie fell mysteriously ill. The media called it a medical complication, but those closest to him knew something was off. He'd been healthy, full of energy, and excited about his new projects. The sudden collapse didn't make sense. Jamie slipped into a coma, his condition shrouded in secrecy. His family kept quiet, avoiding questions about what might have caused it. Behind the scenes, strange calls began to come in, anonymous voices warning them to keep Jamie's stories to themselves. Months later, Jamie woke up. The world erupted with relief, but as his family gathered around him, they noticed something strange. Jamie's eyes were distant, his face pale. His lips moved, forming a single word: Diddy. The call came late, just as I was locking up the diner. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I answered without thinking. Yo, is this Cam? A deep, confident voice asked. Yeah, I replied cautiously. Who's asking? This is Dave from Fifth Avenue Talent. Diddy saw one of your videos. He's interested. I froze. Diddy? The Diddy? He's throwing one of his white parties this weekend, the voice continued. Pack your bags. You're on a plane tomorrow. Before I could ask anything else, the line went dead. I stood there, heart racing, staring at my phone like it might explode. This couldn't be real. But minutes later, when the email with my ticket arrived, I realized it was happening. The next morning, I boarded a private jet. Everything screamed luxury. White leather seats, gold accents, and a bar stocked with bottles I couldn't even pronounce. Dave sat across from me, scrolling on his phone like this was just another Tuesday. You nervous? He asked, handing me a glass filled with something dark and rich. What's this? I asked, sniffing it. Just something to take the edge off, he said, smirking. Big night ahead. I took a sip, then another. The drink burned going down, but it left me feeling warm and light like I was floating. My body tingled, my mind buzzed. You good? Dave asked, glancing up. Yeah, I said slowly, my voice trailing. Better than good. Good, he said, grinning. Oh, one more thing. Diddy's got a thing about handshakes. Hates dry hands. He handed me a small bottle of baby oil. Just rub a little on before you meet him. Trust me. I thought it was weird, but I didn't question it. My palms glistened, smooth and moisturized. A small price to pay for meeting someone like Diddy. The mansion was unreal. A fortress of white marble and glass perched high in the Hollywood Hills. Inside, the air was electric, thick with music, smoke, and a sharp, almost metallic scent that made my skin prickle. Celebrities floated through the crowd like gods, their eyes lingering on me as I passed. Dave led me to the grand staircase where Diddy stood at the top. His white suit shimmered under the chandelier, and his smile was wide, knowing. Cam, he said, extending a hand. His voice was smooth, like silk dipped in honey. Welcome. I shook his hand. His grip lingered just a second too long, his gaze locking onto mine. You're going to love tonight, he said, his smile deepening. It's all about becoming. The ultimate freedom. I nodded, the buzz from the drink and the energy of the party clouding my thoughts. His hand finally released mine, and he gestured for me to follow him into the crowd. The party was surreal. Lights, music, and faces blurred together in a dizzying swirl. Every time I turned around, someone was handing me a drink or pulling me into a conversation. Diddy stayed close, watching me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. "This," he said, leaning in close at one point, "is about your essence, your soul. That's what makes you special." I laughed nervously, the buzz clouding my thoughts. "How do you take it?" I asked, half joking. His smile grew darker, and his hand brushed my shoulder. "You'll see." The night wore on, and I started to feel off. My limbs felt heavy. My head was foggy. Guests began disappearing upstairs, only to return with hollow eyes and robotic movements, like they'd left something behind. A girl stumbled into me. Her nails dug into my arm as she whispered urgently, "Leave, before it's too late." "What do you mean?" I asked, but before she could answer, she was pulled away by a man in white. "Cam," Diddy said, appearing beside me again, his smile sharp as a knife. "Come with me." He led me upstairs to a room lined with mirrors. At the center was a long white table. On it sat a sleek, glowing device next to a small vial filled with swirling golden liquid. "This," he said, picking up the vial, "is your essence, your soul." I stared at the vial, my stomach twisting. "What do you mean, my soul?" He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. "It's what makes you, your energy, your light, and when I take it, I become more." His smile widened. The ultimate freak. The realization hit me like a slap. This wasn't just a party. This was a ritual, a transaction, and I was the offering. My legs felt weak, my head heavy, but adrenaline pushed me forward. "No," I whispered. "I'm not doing this." His smile vanished, replaced by cold fury. "No one says no to me." I bolted out of the room, my breath ragged, my heart pounding. Behind me, Diddy's voice echoed through the mansion. "Find him, bring him back." The chase was a nightmare of blurred hallways and multiplying reflections. My body felt heavy, my movements sluggish. That's when I realized the baby oil wasn't just moisturizer. It was a weapon, something that was shutting down my system. I stumbled into a storage room, grabbing an old tarp and wrapping it around my hands to block any further absorption. But I knew it was too late. Diddy was hunting me, and in this house he controlled everything. When I finally collapsed at the front door, unable to escape, he knelt beside me. His triumph was complete. "Your essence is already mine," he whispered. I woke in a hospital bed, my mind spinning. The nurse said I'd been found unconscious in an abandoned alley. No one believed me when I tried to explain what had happened. No one even knew about the white party. Weeks later, I saw the headlines. Another white party, another rising star plucked from obscurity. And I knew the truth. Diddy's voice still haunts me, his words a chilling reminder. Your essence is already mine, and somehow I know he's not done. Not with me.